Hey everybody, it's Joel Williams and Chase ELLEBY coming to you today with week number 48 out of our video series of 52 weeks of personal injury. Today we want to talk about how much treatment should you get after an injury for your injury case. Any thoughts on that, Chase?
Yeah, I got plenty of thoughts. So the short answer is however much treatment you need, right? I mean, a lot of times people will call us and say, I'm in a car wreck, or I fell, I got hurt, what do I do next? Well, if you're hurt and you're in pain, get to the doctor, whether that's the emergency room or urgent care, your PCP, wherever it is, just get to the doctor and get some treatment. And then from there, do what the doctors tell you to do, right? Sometimes you only have to treat once or twice and you're better, and that's great. Sometimes you have to treat, you have to do therapy, you might need surgery. So it's always important from our perspective is to just listen to what the doctors have to say, what the medical professionals have to say, and get the treatment that's recommended for you.
Yeah, and that's kind of the sort of the obvious injury, like get what treatment you need, right? But there can be other considerations to just think about when you're dealing with medical treatment and specifically with how much money is there to recover from, right? So let's say you get in a car wreck and you have some pretty bad injuries, but out of all the insurance that's available, there's not even enough insurance to cover, you know, the first month of your treatment.
Right.
Okay. In those situations, you need more treatment than what can be paid for out of your personal injury settlement. So there's other things to think about then. In some situations like that, if the person that's injured does not have health insurance, it may be a good idea to try to get all the insurance money that's available and then use some of that money to purchase health insurance so that you can then afford to pay for your medical treatment that you need moving forward.
Right, and I mean, you're exactly right, because you bring up a good point talking about the treatment, because if you're in a car wreck and you have health insurance and things like that, and it's not as much of a burden financially to get the treatment, you can sort of just treat until you're better. Mm-hmm. But that's not always the case. It's kind of what Joel's talking about as well, is like the insurance coverage could be so minimal and you could need so much treatment that you just can't get the treatment. We've talked in other videos about how you can treat on a lien, which would be a possibility. But again, if there's not coverage there, you're not going to have a lien, because at the end of the day, there's not going to be enough to pay for that treatment.
Yeah, don't over-treat your coverage without taking other things into consideration about how can I get this treatment and make this money go as far as possible so that I get the care that I need, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
The reverse is also true. So it's rarely a good idea to just continue to treat and treat and treat and treat once you're better. If there's $1 million of insurance or $10 million of insurance available, that doesn't mean that it's the right thing to do to go out and just have a bunch of surgeries and have all this treatment just to run your bills up so you can get more money. Matter of fact, that's usually a really bad idea, because when there's a lot of money available from insurance, then the insurance companies are going to fight you harder over it. And if you're not really hurt, then they're going to go out and hire experts to come in and say, hey, look, this was either pre-existing, or it's not a real injury, or they're exacerbating, or they're a malingerer, and all of those kinds of things. So in almost every single situation, the best thing to do is to just get the treatment that you need to get better.
Correct.
And if you can't get better, in other words, if this is a permanent injury, then you treat until your doctor is able to say, this is what you're going to be dealing with long term. This is what it's going to cost for you to receive that treatment. And then we factor all of that into a settlement demand or an ask when we're trying a case in front of a jury, that kind of thing.
Right, because sort of what you're talking about is you get to a point where the doctor might say, well, this is as good as you're going to get, right? So there's no point in continuing to treat. Talking about how you don't want to treat if you're not hurt, well, that's obvious, but you also don't want to treat if it's not improving or you're getting better, right? An example I'll use is, if you're going to the physical therapist and you've done 25, 30 visits and you've gotten better, but you've sort of plateaued or gotten as good as you're going to get, knowing that physical therapy isn't going to help if you do another 20 visits, then don't do that 20. Don't do those 20 more visits, because you have a duty to mitigate your damages, and going to get treatment that isn't really helping isn't going to help your case.
Yeah. So at that point, the best course of action would probably be to go back to the doctor that prescribed the physical therapy and say, hey, look, it helped a little bit, but I'm not seeing any improvement over the past 2 months or whatever it happens to be. Is there anything else we can try? and then just explain to the doctor how it helped and where you're at. So really it's always about treating for the injury and not for the case, because if you treat for the case, there's a lot of things that could go wrong. But as long as you stick with treating for your injury, then you're going to have a solid legal basis for causation, which is causation is just something you have to prove in addition to that the other person's at fault. So you got to prove they're at fault. You got to prove whatever they did caused your injuries. So when it comes to medical treatment, it's always about causation and damages, right? So as long as you do what your doctors tell you to do, you listen to them, they're more than likely going to want to be helpful when it comes time to giving an affidavit, a medical narrative, or testifying in your case. And then also listen to your lawyers when it comes to how much money is actually available to recover from. And then you can strategize with your lawyer about the best course moving forward and how to make the money that is available work best for you.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
Any other things about how long you should treat or what you should do with medical treatment?
No, I mean, I think we've covered it all. So, I mean, it's just important. I mean, I think the overarching, thing to take away from this video is really just do what your doctors tell you to do and try to get better.
Yeah. Oh, and I know. One other thing I wanted to mention is if you treat for 2 to 3 months and you seem to be getting better, and then your lawyer sends off a demand letter after working with you on deciding how much to send it for, if the insurance company calls back and offers some pittance, some really bad offer, it's not usually a good idea to then say, oh, well, I'll show them, and then go out and start running up your bills and getting a lot of medical treatment and that kind of thing, because by that time there's going to be a gap, and then a jury's going to be able to sniff out that, look, this person was better after 3 months, they waited another 6 months to go back to the doctor, and it's just going to cause problems. So treating for the case overall is a bad idea.
Yeah.
So, well, that about wraps it up for week number 48. And if this video has been helpful to you, we'd appreciate you giving us a thumbs up or subscribing to our channel. Otherwise, we will see you next week for video number 49.